WCBS News Time, 5:42 on Drive Time. The judge at Donald Trump's hush money trial has fined him another $1,000 for violating the gag order in the case and has threatened Trump with jail time. Attorney and former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani is joining us here on Drive Time. Neama, good to talk to you again. What do you make of these continued violations and fines?
Michael, it's just another day for Donald Trump in court and another violation. Now, today, Judge Juan Merchan really specifically said, hey, I don't want to hold you in contempt and imprison you. You're a former president. You may be the next president, but I will do it if you continue to willfully violate my gag order.
Do you think the judge will stick to that if he has to?
I don't think so. Even the judge brought up the logistical difficulty of sending Secret Service to prison, whether it's Rikers Island or elsewhere. I mean, I think the judge is trying to do everything he possibly can to avoid it because, I mean, there's issues that are much bigger than this case. It may lead to mass protests, civil unrest if Trump is indeed incarcerated, especially in the middle of a presidential election. But the judge's hands may be tied if Donald Trump continues to violate that order.
Now, interestingly, the judge did not fine Trump for his criticisms of Michael Cohen or former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker. Those were not violations of the gag order?
Well, Cohen, the judge previously said that, listen, Michael Cohen, if you're going to make public statements, then it's really fair game for Donald Trump to respond. And, you know, Pecker's already been off the stand and has testified. And, you know, and really, what would the fine be? Another $1,000 for a 10th violation? I mean, that's really nothing for Donald Trump. It really, the question is there something between these fines, which are a slap on the wrist, and imprisonment, which really would be the ultimate punishment? Is there something else the judge can do? Maybe sentence him to home confinement. He's got to stay in Trump Tower, something of that effect, or maybe an adverse jury instruction. The jury is told that Donald Trump, the defendant in the case, is willfully violated a court order. I think we would see something like that before an actual term of imprisonment.
In a quote-unquote normal trial, if someone violates a gag order this often and the judge decides that that's it, time to go to jail, would that, around here, that would be Rikers probably, right?
That would be, Michael. You and I would be in Rikers already. I mean, no question. Any other defendant in any other case in this country would have been held in criminal contempt. No one has been given as many second chances as Donald Trump. Obviously, he's not your typical defendant, but I would expect, given the proximity to the court, that Rikers Island would be the place that any other defendant would be right now.
But you don't see that happening here. Even if he were to go to jail, it would have to be something a little more secure than that, one would think.
It would have to. I mean, obviously, Donald Trump can't be in the general population in a place like Rikers. He would have to be isolated. He would have to have Secret Service protection. Logistically, it would be a nightmare for the prison. So I can't imagine the judge wants to do it. And I don't think Rikers would enjoy having to deal with an inmate like Donald Trump.
Neama, in your days as a prosecutor, did you ever have a defendant defy a gag order as many times as Trump has in this case?
I did not, Michael. You know, I had folks that were, these tax protesters and these sovereign citizens and people that did not believe in the authority of the federal government or district judges. And when they would, act up in court, they would be taken into custody immediately. I mean, no judge would allow something like this to go so far.
You have told us before when you've joined us that this is the weakest of the 4 criminal cases against Donald Trump. What do you make of the prosecution's case so far that they've laid out?
I would say it's still the weakest case, but today was a good case because I think we're starting to see them connect the dots. Today we had Deborah Tarasoff, who testified that Trump had to personally approve any invoice of more than $10,000. He signed those checks himself, anything that came out of his personal bank account. We're seeing, $35,000 payments to Michael Cohen. And then we saw the comptroller of the Trump organization, Jeff McConney, testify that Alan Weisselberg, who, of course, is the former CFO who testified in the civil fraud case, who appears to have perjured himself. He said that these payments were to reimburse Michael Cohen. So, brick by brick, piece by piece, I think we're getting there. And today, I think, was a good day for the state.
What do you suspect the defense's case is going to be? What are they going to try to prove or argue?
I think they're going to go in one of 2 ways. They're going to put this on the accountant. I don't know what accountant that is, but that's something that they talked about during their opening, and saying that it was the accountant who decided to book these payments as legal expenses, even though there was no retainer agreement. I think we're going to see a fall guy. And I think as sort of a plan B, we're going to hear the defense argue that looking at these payments were made, they had nothing to do with the 2016 election, they had nothing to do with a campaign finance or other election type violation. This was just to prevent Trump from being embarrassed. And this is something that Hope Hicks testified to last week. So I think that's the defense that we're going to see probably in 2 to 3 weeks when the defense begins their case in chief.
Yep, still got a ways to go. Former federal prosecutor Neama Rahmani, always good to hear from you. Thanks again for joining us.
Thanks for having me, Michael. See you soon.
548 at WCBS on Drive Time.